Welcome back, chums. Today we have a lot to talk about in regards to CD Projekt Red. 2 days ago we had earnings report for the first half of 2024, where we learned some interesting things about the development of their future games. It's nothing grand we didn't know before, but we will go through it one more time. First bit of information is that Polaris team, who is working on the next Witcher game, or well, the first in the new trilogy, has made significant progress in pre-production, which will enable them to soon go into full production. And these are great news because it means that workflow is going well in Unreal Engine 5, being that this will be the first CD Projekt Red game in a while to move away from the Red engine which was used previously, besides The Witcher 1 which was made in Aurora engine. And even in Aurora engine long time ago, we have seen what CD Projekt Red likes to do with it, upgrading and changing it to the point where it works for them, so it will be interesting to see how is this translated into Unreal Engine 5, because we already know that some of the technology from Red engine will be implemented into Unreal Engine as well. When it comes to the new Boston studio, which is primarily developing the sequel to Cyberpunk 2077, has also made good progress, and the actual studio is slowly becoming bigger and bigger as they are laying the groundwork for the game itself. Of course, it will take a while until this is out, because we have to take into account that I don't expect the new Witcher until 2026 to 2027 at best, so Cyberpunk sequel could easily go into 2030, which is, well, far away. They also touched on the release of The Witcher 3 Red Kit, which, if you're not following the latest news, gives modders ability to create pretty much anything in the game, being that the tool released is very similar in functionality as when the devs developed the game. Maybe this will be a good motivation for them to do the same for Cyberpunk 2077, being that the sequel is not coming anytime soon, and having tools like that in a very vibrant modding community would mean extended life of the game as well as new content. Now, if we go back and check out development teams' graphs, we can see some of the changes within the teams. They're not huge, but for example, Polaris Witcher team is now up to 410 developers from 407. Orion is up to 60, Sirius is up to 42, which is amazing, being that I'm interested to see what Molasses Flood has been cooking up. I mean, initially I thought that this game would come out before the next Witcher, being that, well, it's smaller in size and it's set in the Witcher universe, but for the time being I don't think that's going to be the case, because that project was revised not that long ago. Hadar is pretty much the same as before, with 20 people working on the new in-house IP. So far we don't know what it is, what genre or style it will be in. Only thing we know is that they want that, as well as everything else, to supplement well with pop culture, because when you're thinking about IPs now, you also have to think about merch, plushies, shows, films, and etc, since that's the strategy of their company presented, I think, 2 years ago. And shared services and other projects are 99 and 8 people, which brings total of 639 developers as of August 2024. As far as their finances goes, in the first half of 2024 they reached the consolidated revenues of 425 million Polish zloty, which is around $110 million, with 100 million zloty more than the year before, so 25, or well, closer to $26 million increase. And the total net profit was 170 million zloty, or closer to 44 million US dollars, which is a nearly 90% year-on-year improvement. And right now they even allocated around 38 million for their future projects in the stage they are in right now. Keep in mind, as development continues, so does the spending. This is mostly the result of sales from Cyberpunk and Phantom Liberty expansion, which still drives sales. This is nice to see, because for the longest of time Witcher 3 was the main revenue driver, but it seems now Cyberpunk is taking that role for the past few quarters, since, well, Witcher 3 is slowly reaching its market saturation, meaning that, well, most people have bought the game. Don't get me wrong, it will still continue to sell, absolutely, but not in the numbers it did 2 to 3 years ago. Interestingly, they also mentioned that as they move closer towards their development goals, they will be able to share more about their projects, hence most likely the new Witcher game, but we will see that, in my opinion, next year, or well, at least learn about, what the game is going to be about, like at least story-wise. Besides this, they haven't shared any other info in the presentation, so we will move on to the standard investors Q&A, they always do. First notable question was about their work in Unreal Engine 5, to which they said this: "Nothing we're doing is easy, but at the time we feel quite confident with our choice and open world technology in our collaboration with Epic on making this technology viable for open world games. We're making a lot of tools for ourselves. In due time we'll be showcasing what we're working on, and you'll have a chance to judge for yourselves, but we're confident with our choice." Speaking of Project Sirius, they were asked on how that project is progressing and if it's still in research phase. Work on Sirius is definitely progressing. The game is being developed by Molasses Flood, autonomous studio. It's a different type of game compared to our AAA single-player RPGs. In this sense, it may be treated as experimental. We are closely monitoring results of development work on an ongoing basis, and thus we're satisfied with them. This is good to hear because it seems to me that whatever iteration they had before, they didn't like so much, so now project is moving in the right direction. Another question was about their future animation projects, and I think this answer caught the most mainstream media coverage, where some even assumed that Edgerunners will be getting a sequel, but this is what they said. "Yes, we are planning to have more in the sphere of pop culture. This is very much in our interest. When it comes to specifically to Cyberpunk Edgerunners having a continuation, I'd rather bring back what I've said before. We definitely plan to do more in terms of animation with Cyberpunk. I hope that's enough for an answer. Expect to see more for sure, but that's as far as I can go right now." So technically yes, they're planning more animation projects, which is logical being that Edgerunners brought a huge attention to the video game, and cross-promotion between the two has been very positive. Ever since they saw an impact of it, like a long time ago it had on The Witcher 3 when the first season of Netflix The Witcher was released, and they had, you had more enthusiasm in the show, which translated into the game popularity. Now look, as much as I would love Edgerunners Season 2, I still think that story is more or less done, and since you have a huge universe to work with, you can create some amazing stories, some amazing shows with different characters that will be just as interesting and popular. I mean, you have Cyberpunk 2020 era, you have Cyberpunk Red era, you have the modern Cyberpunk 2077 era, so you can pretty much create like a show every single week and still have enough material to go on for like 50 years. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot of this. Plus, they also have the live-action Cyberpunk project, which is still very much being developed, and it will be interesting to see where it's set exactly in the lore and what characters are we going to meet. So long story short, CD Projekt Red is doing well. It seems their cash flow is positive as they're now entering pretty much the spending mode to create new games. But we will see, how further that develops with new investors reports in the future, which are right now one of the biggest sources of info we get, being that, well, they have to talk to their investors and kinda give bits of info to keep them engaged. In the other news, we also had a new RedStreams, which was about a new Cyberpunk 2077 board game. I'm going to leave you a link so you can watch it. And there is a new community RedStreams coming September 3rd at 5 PM Central European Summer Time, which will be, more community oriented, celebrating on 20 years of it. I'm definitely going to tune into this once it's live. And besides that, this is everything we know so far in regards to CDPR. As always, I will leave all of the sources below so you can go through them. As well, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more, and join our community on Twitter and Discord. Huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters, and as always, stay classy everyone, and I will see you in a new video. Bye bye.